and welcome to this lesson on value targeting, insights from starving artists and startups. So the first technique we're going to talk about is value mapping. Value mapping is a technique that's used by customer development, design thinking, or any type of product or service development process. The goal is to understand your customer and then match them with the product that you have. The way that this works is that first we start off by profiling the customer. The customer is going to have a certain list of jobs that they do every day, what we call a day in the life summary. Normally this is done through interviews and understanding the customer in detail through different types of research and analysis. The output of this is going to be identifying which of the jobs are the pain points, the ones that really take a lot of time and are not enjoyable at all, and which ones are the gain points, the points at which they really get a lot of value or a lot of reward, either personally or through making money or some kind of other benefit. From this, you have a customer profile, and that customer profile can now be aligned to a product. On the same side, your product and service is going to have certain technical details, certain delivery, but oftentimes there's going to be some kind of value, some one thing of value that's going to be really important. It's likely going to either be a gain creator or it's going to be a pain reliever. If it's a gain creator, that means we want to match it up with a customer that has a gain that can be serviced by that product or a gain that can be improved by the service that you're offering. In matching that up with the right customer profile, you're going to be able to then identify your market, and that's how we get our market fit. If it's a pain reliever, the same thing. We're looking for the pain points that are being solved and the customers that have the profile that have those pain points. So if you're going one way or the other, either way, it's all about matching the product with the customer through understanding the customer profile and the product profile and how they work together in context. Now let's talk about one of the tools and methods that uses value mapping, design thinking. First, when it comes to design thinking, we want to understand that design thinking isn't just a series of steps. Design thinking is really a method of defining and designing new products or services that has evolved since the 1950s. The simplest way to think about it is the way that Robert McCrim talks about the express test cycle. That means that needs are expressed, then solutions are tested, and you cycle back to see if you can improve on it. That cycle is really about moving from what we call problem solving or problem-based solving to solution-based solving. Problem-based solving is when scientists study a problem. It's a scientific method of understanding the problem in great detail. We want to model it out. We want to be able to completely simulate and forecast any change to a problem. The issue with that is that you're focusing on the problem. In solutions-based solving, what we're doing is we're focusing on finding solutions that work for a problem and testing them against the problem. So in this case, we test solutions versus studying problems. By testing solutions, we're able to have a true answer about whether or not our solutions work and potentially get there a lot faster because studying a problem can be endless. Now, there are a couple of principles that come from Stanford in terms of design thinking. The first is the humanity rule. The humanity rule says that all design is a social process. So as a social process, we need to do it in groups. Second is the ambiguity rule. This means that you aren't going to know everything you need to know in order to solve the problem. You need to be willing to, as a team, throw out ideas and learn from each other and then test them. Third is the redesign rule. The redesign rule says that nothing is new. And in fact, if anything about this course is true, is that we're using examples in other people's work all the time. I'm not original, and no one truly is original. We stand on the shoulders of giants every day. Everything is a redesign of something that's come before it. It's just a new context, both socially and in terms of technology. And then lastly is the tangibility rule. Talking about something is great, but seeing is believing. And by visualizing and interacting with some kind of prototype or early product, you can communicate what you're trying to offer as a solution much more quickly and get real authentic feedback on it. So I've provided you an example video here. It's actually a link to the website on design thinking, and it will give you a quick example of a game that was developed using the design thinking process that was very successful. Now let's talk about the other method of being able to find your one thing that's very effective, which is customer development. The customer development process is another process that is currently promoted by the Stanford Design School. And the customer development process was actually invented by Steve Blank. If any of you have heard about the Lean Startup movement, Lean Startup is customer development. It's just an incomplete version of it that was written by Eric Ries, who studied under Steve Blank. Just giving him his credit. I don't think he gets it. So as you take a look here, the first step in customer development is always customer discovery. The difference with customer development is that it takes solutions-based solving to another level. You start with a product and then you go and find your customer. Some people equate this to having a hammer and finding a nail, but in fact, it is the fastest way to find a market for some new product or invention. So the way that Steve Blank recommends you going about building and finding your product market fit is first you discover which customers have the profile that match your product. Then you validate that by doing small concierge MVPs, which is a minimal viable product. And by having a very concierge service, you can prove that people will actually pay for it. Oftentimes, this requires a lot of iteration, and when you find that there's an issue with the business model or product, you do what's called a pivot, and that pivot changes something very important about either the channel through which you sell or the product itself. Then, once you have that product market fit, you cross the chasm and you go into customer creation. This is when you get the startups to infuse lots of cash from VCs in order to drive marketing. And then finally, you get into company building, where you start having boards and start running social media campaigns and maybe running for office. So these are the 4 steps of customer development. The idea is take solutions-based solving to the next level by taking your product and finding the customer that really needs it, their pain and their gain points from value mapping. I hope that this has been useful for you. If you want to learn more, we're going to provide you more information in the summary points on this lesson. It should allow you to explore, especially if you're an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, how you can get a really good fit between your customer and the service or product you're developing on your project. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next lesson.